What's up, dudes and dudes here, and my name's Seth. Sorry that this video is probably going to be a little bit dark. This camera does not deal with... I ended up actually getting a very interesting product request to do a review on, and because I ended up agreeing to do a review on it, they actually ended up sending me a free product. So what we've got here is a 3-in-1 multifunctional stand for the PlayStation 4, PS4, and PS4 Slim. Compatible with just all of the different versions of the PS4. What this essentially is going to end up doing is letting us stand the PlayStation 4 up sideways. So I got my PS4 out here right now, and just to give you an idea, I hope that it's not too dark, but this is my current setup. I actually have this little block of wood on top of my Xbox One, and then my PS4 sits atop that, so that there's not really any heating issues and stuff like that. Generally speaking, I have a very hard time trying to fit all of my console stuff into such a tiny enclosed little space. So as soon as they ended up contacting me about actually getting this product, I thought, dude, get this thing that's going to end up helping with my PlayStation and my space and everything. That's absolutely awesome. Because it also has intelligent control. So it's got temperature sensors, dual charging docks. You can actually charge your controllers on this thing as well. And then a 3,200 RPM cooling power. I guess it's like a fan or something. So without further ado, let's open this bad boy up and take a peek and see what it's going to... Ooh, that's actually not too bad. Not too bad at all, is it? I like how they actually went the extra mile with the detail and ended up putting kind of like snowflakes on the area that's going to be the cooling section, right? It looks like... I'll say this, it looks a lot cheaper than it feels. Like, it actually feels like it's like it's heavy enough to actually be like a proper product. Not to mention the way that it's actually all packaged and everything. What are all these weird things? I don't know what all these weird side things are, but we got a couple extra wires here as well. So, very interesting, very cool. Let's see. So, it says that it's compatible with all the different versions of the PlayStation. We're, of course, rocking the PlayStation Slim? Is that what that is? I don't think it's the PS Pro. I guess that's where these end up coming into play, because these seem to just be generally adjustable. Now, one thing that I do find interesting and want to see is that with the PlayStation, we've got kind of two USB ports on the front here, which hopefully it's picking it up on the camera. And I actually have my little wireless USB keyboard. Yep, there it is. This little puppy is sitting right here in the corner, so I'm hoping that I still have access to that while I, in fact, end up actually putting my PlayStation into the dock here. So let me see if I can figure this out. Alright, I figured it out. It does actually look pretty darn cool. I'm just going to double check right now, though, and see if I still actually have access to that bottom USB slot, which I barely do. But it does, in fact, fit. Let me see if I can get a good angle of this so that you can end up kind of seeing what this looks like in the light. So they actually did a really good job with this thing, dude. Like, it seems to be very compatible just with the PlayStation in general, which, of course, it's supposed to be. But I ended up kind of just putting it in, and then the little slits on the back actually do a good job of holding the console in. While you probably can't really see it with the camera, there's kind of these little slots right here, which I don't know if it necessarily works for the back here, but you can see on the front there's this little piece of plastic. So I'm guessing that that would be what would fit into that little slot if it was a different version of the PlayStation. And then those extra things that I mentioned, these little bad boys, I ended up getting a couple of these, and it seems that I ended up putting one of them right in the slot right here. So I guess that the second one would end up being for the PlayStation Slim or the PlayStation Pro. Maybe it's smaller or something. I don't necessarily know. But I am very interested to see how it's going to end up actually working out with the controller itself, because as you see, we actually have these very, very convenient little charging stations, which as far as I know just goes straight like this, and I think that's already it plugged in, which is a very, very efficient use of space, because if there's one thing that we all can agree on as far as console gaming is concerned, is that they still really haven't figured out a way to make the controllers a little bit more like, you know, something that you can end up like hiding somewhere. You know, the Nintendo Switch is pretty much the only console that actually does a good job of that. and that's just with the Joy-Con controllers because they attach to the console itself. But anyways, it seems we got automatic and manual as far as the heat and stuff is concerned, and then just a power button in general. So let me see if I can end up hooking this up. Hopefully it's not too complicated, but it seems to be very, very user-friendly. A couple interesting things to point out is I'm looking at the manual here, and while I did end up figuring out that you do plug the AC cable into the side here, we actually have 3 USB slots. What are those for? Like, is that to plug it in and get like software updates or something? I don't really understand what that's about, but it ended up actually coming with like one USB thingamabob. Maybe that's got to do with I wouldn't think that it's actually tied to the console in any way, shape, or form, because the console's not actually plugged into it. However, that would be really convenient, wouldn't it, if you could end up actually plugging into those side slots and then having your controller in your hand and charging at the same time. Maybe that is what that is, but don't quote me on it, because I'm not exactly sure on that one. However, one thing that I am noticing for sure instantly is that although it does actually let the PlayStation stand, the length of it is a lot longer than the PlayStation itself. And as far as like saving space, like it does still save a considerable amount of space for the console itself, but not as much as you would think. Like this is kind of like as far as it goes, like as far as the console is concerned, and it's not taking up like half of the space of the console, as you can see with my fingers right here. It's taking maybe like a quarter, if that, off of the length of the console actually sitting on its side. So it's not really like as convenient as it would seem originally, outside of the fact that you do actually get it to stand up. So generally, too, I guess that would be another point to argue, is the fact that it takes more space just because of the simple fact that we're also dealing with vertical space now, too. So is cutting off like less than a quarter of the console worth taking up that vertical space? I don't know, dude. Let me see if I can actually set it up in my little space right here, in my little gaming compartment, and I'll get back at you. Alright folks, so while I do actually think that this thing is pretty fancy, I'm really hoping that the camera can pick it up, because again, this camera deals terribly with low light situations. I might try and see if this ends up working out. However, I don't know if my old original Xbox One is able to even stand on the side like this. I think that's only a feature they ended up putting in the more recent Xboxes. But you can kind of see that we've got the little temperature meter right there and everything, and I ended up taking the controller out. Generally, it looks like it looks a lot better. Like, it really does look cleaner here. And again, I'm really hoping my camera ends up picking it up all right. But generally, I don't know if it's necessarily saving me any space. Like, it looks like it's saving space, that's for sure. And I can kind of end up spacing out the consoles. But again, most of all, it looks a lot better. However, another thing to keep in mind is that I've got a very specific setup because I'm a Let's Player and stuff. Like, there's a lot of wires back there that you may or may not be able to see. And this is another big, fat, dumb AC adapter that's being added to the pile of my, like, big old board here, right? So I can fit it right now, but usually I end up using this slot for my phone charger. I do thankfully still have one last slot to end up plugging it into. I just want to say this as a point for somebody like myself. It might not necessarily be the most convenient, but personally I would recommend this product. I actually think that it's really, really cool in that it seems to work very, very well just with, like, its design and everything like that. Like, I think it would be great just for somebody that doesn't have like a million power bars that are completely filled up, right? And then on top of that, not only is it a space saver, but it also looks a lot better. And then on top of that, something that I think is very interesting is that with this specific cooling thingamabob, like I'm even looking underneath it, I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm just saying that you could probably get away with putting it on a very unventilated, a very unventilated area. Like, you're not supposed to put, like, electronics on rugs or anything like that, and I'm not condoning or recommending it. I'm most of all just saying that, you know, maybe if you had like a piece of cardboard or a little piece of wood that you ended up putting on a carpet, I think that you could very easily get away with putting this thing on top of it, and it does take a lot less space than the console itself. Maybe not in both directions. You know, the console is obviously a lot thinner, but when we couple that together with the fact that the controller itself is just sitting upright like this rather than sitting down like this, it is actually saving quite a bit of space, and we don't have to have a really ugly like cable sticking out of this controller plugging into the console anytime we want to actually charge the battery. So A+ for effort on that one. This product was actually built by NesBull. NesBull? They give you wings. It makes me think of Red Bull. But in either case, I'm going to kind of mess around with it, see if I can end up getting it to work a little bit more efficiently for my specific functions. Because I am noticing that right away, like it's constantly beeping. I don't know if it's, oh, now it's actually working, it seems. That's very interesting. The temperature meter just kind of seems to flash until the console itself is actually on. Let me see if I can end up actually getting... Yeah, so as I plug the controller in, it actually shows... You might not be able to see it, but the full battery meter right there. So it means that the controller is fully charged. And I don't know if it's just not detecting the heat, or it's because the console's like just turning on. But I don't really think that it's just generating any heat or anything. So... Most of all, we gotta see how loud it's going to be, which I'm not really hearing anything. Like, yeah, I'm not really hearing anything out of it, honestly speaking. So maybe it would end up being a lot louder as the fan would go a lot higher, but otherwise, I really would actually say that. Now, right here, Doris from NesBull, they're the one that actually contacted me about doing a review of this product. Most of all, I'm excited because I got this free item. Like, seriously, I always think that it's amazing that I've come this far as, well, I don't want to say like I've come this far, like, oh, I'm the greatest or anything, but I just mean like, from this little channel that's been doing like Let's Plays and stuff like that, to end up getting like a full-on product that affects my PlayStation 4 and doesn't actually affect like any of the gaming or Let's Play aspect of what I'm actually doing, right? Either way, very cool product. Links will be in the description for everything, bud. Thanks to them for throwing me in, and thanks to you folks watching at home most of all for actually tuning into the video. Like, seriously, was this boring? I don't know. But I'll have links in the description for everything about the product and everything like that. Otherwise, I personally would very much appreciate if you would like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. That's also going to build up loyalty points to my merch store. That's links in the description as well, where you can buy this hat and a bunch of other things. And then also for the fans that want to go the extra mile, you can always donate to me for absolutely free with Gawkbox. Links in the description explaining more about that, blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, if you do have a PlayStation, and if you're worried about like space and stuff like that, yeah, I would actually recommend that you do buy this. I think that it's a great little product. Like, seriously, it looks a lot better than the garbage piece of wood that I had on my Xbox, doesn't it? Thanks for watching, folks. Sign on and stay epic.